Grandpa stole his first buggy in 1892. I met your grandma pig slopping in 46.
Oh, every Christmas we'd visit my Uncle Fred in prison.
And you have found us, Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show, and ExtremeGenes.com. It is Fisher here, your radio root sleuth, on the program where we shake your family tree and watch the nuts fall out. This segment of the show is brought to you by LegacyTree.com, and I'm very excited to have back on the show today one of my good friends from New York City. He's a best-selling New York Times author. He's A.J. Jacobs, and A.J. has written a new book. It's called It's All Relative, Adventures Up and Down the World's Family Tree, and it's based on, in large part, all the stuff that led up to the global family reunion that many of us were a part of in 2015, and it is hilarious. You're going to love to hear from A.J. Of course, later in the show, more questions from you being answered by our Preservation Authority, Tom Perry, so make sure you're around for that, especially if you have had things damaged in the recent bad weather, the floods, the hurricanes. He's got some questions to deal with right there. I want to thank all our Patron Club members who have joined us in the past week. You can do so by going to patreon.com/extremegenes or just click on the Patrons Club at extremegenes.com. Either way gets you there. I mean, for less than the cost of a pair of men's socks, you can get some great benefits from being part of our Patrons Club. Speaking of which, David Allen Lambert was with me just the other day as we did another Ask Us Anything session on a live YouTube session for our Patrons Club members. David is the chief genealogist of the New England Historic Genealogical Society and AmericanAncestors.org. On the line with us right now from Boston, Massachusetts. How you doing, Dave?
Hey, I'm doing really good. Looking forward to heading out to Salt Lake City very shortly for a research tour that we've done. And this is like my 35th trip out there. It's like become my summer home.
Wow.
Or my fall home.
Well, it's a great place to go because, as we all know, Salt Lake City, Utah is kind of the mecca for family history with the Family History Library and all kinds of other great assets there.
And that actually leads me to my first thing. I'm sure many listeners probably were involved in the worldwide indexing event, which went on recently. But for me, I indexed probably about 300 records, I think it said, but I found 6 cousins in the records.
You're kidding me. So you chose a project, right? And the way this works, by the way, you go to familysearch.org, one of our sponsors, by the way, and there are places there where you can actually go and index records so that people can find them more easily. So you look at the original and you type it over, and you can do thousands of them over the course of weeks. And so they had this big event, and David, you were doing like 300 of them. You obviously chose a project to work on because you can pick what records you want to do, and you chose them from where?
New Brunswick, Canada, late registrations of birth, and hoped that I'd find the card for my great-grandfather, which I knew existed. But when I started looking at the maiden names of the mothers, I'm like, wait a second, the Berry family from Turtle Creek, which is about the size of Walmart,
Yeah.
I knew that it was my family.
Wow. And you found how many of them?
6.
That's incredible. What a great story.
So you just never know what you're going to find, even when you're not intending to look for it to begin with.
Well, absolutely. And that kind of leads to our next story here in Family Histoire News. Fred Armisen, who we all know from Saturday Night Live. He's the band leader with Seth Meyers on, The Late Show. And he was recently on with Henry Louis Gates.
Yes, Skip Gates was able to determine for him that for the longest time, Fred thought he was a quarter Japanese. Turns out he's a quarter Korean.
Korean? What's that about?
Well, you know, it's funny. Sometimes when people emigrate, their surnames and names get changed, their identity changed. And Gates found that Cooney, his ancestor, was actually born in Korea in 1908 as Park Yong-in.
Okay.
And so now he knows he's a quarter Korean. And as Fred said, he's been telling people for years that he's a quarter Japanese, and now he's not Japanese at all.
That's kind of a life-changing identity thing for him.
It would be. I really enjoy what Henry Louis Gates has been doing for celebrities, and I think it really embraces what everybody wants to find. I mean, most of us are genealogists or family historians. These are celebrities who've never had their family done, so these are really major surprises.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And the fun thing, too, is his grandfather was a spy for Japan against Germany. So that's a whole other story, but we need to move on because this is very cool. Everybody's always interested in the Titanic. You actually had a friend who was a survivor of the Titanic for many years. And here's this letter, Melvina Dean. Here's this letter now that's come up that was actually taken from a body in the ocean. It was preserved by the family for these 105 years, and now it's been auctioned off.
$166,000 for a piece of stationery that was on the body of Alexander Oscar Holverson, who was on the Titanic and one of the 1,500 that were killed on board.
And talk about content, too. He describes what it's like there, the entertainment, what the food was like. They expect to be in New York by Wednesday morning, if all goes well. And it's on this great stationery that says, what does it say, onboard Titanic stationery or something like that? It
does. It says onboard RMS Titanic, and then you fill in the date, and it was a letter dated April 13th, and of course, the Titanic struck the berg on April 14th in the evening and sunk in the early morning hours of April 15th.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny, I've actually seen some Titanic things. Melvina actually had a postcard that her mother had mailed, and when the Titanic was at Cherbourg, France, it had a mail drop-off. So if you filled out a postcard, it was mailed. So the family got the postcard not knowing whether or not her family survived. She lost her dad in the event. Well, every week I do a blogger spotlight, and this one is touching upon Canadian roots. In fact, the blog is called findingyourcanadianstory.blogspot.ca. And Candice McDonald is giving a wonderful introduction for those who have Canadian roots, and she just recently wrote about Prince Edward Island newspapers. So you might want to check that out. It's a great blog with some great topics, and she's been writing it for well over a year now. Well, if you can't visit us at NEHS in person, you can always check out AmericanAncestors.org. And if you like it, remember, for $20 off, use the checkout code EXTREME, and you'll be a member of NEHS, the oldest genealogical society in the world.
I love it. David, thank you so much. You have a great week. We got to catch up on coins, right? The ancestral birth coins next week when we talk again, okay?
That sounds great. I got an 1887 for my grandfather, but more on that next week.
All right. And coming up next, we're going to talk to A.J. Jacobs. Our good friend from New York is the writer of a brand new book from Simon & Schuster. It's called It's All Relative, Adventures Up and Down the World's Family Tree. Coming up in 3 minutes on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show.
Did you know that Family Search Family Tree is available through a powerful new mobile app experience? That's right. Now you can view, edit, and even add information to ancestors in your family tree whenever and wherever you are. You no longer need to wait to get home or make a date with your computer to view or update your family tree. You can add details to your tree when visiting with family or when capturing details from a trip to the cemetery. You can share new family history discoveries from classroom settings. You can even make the most of your time when waiting for doctor appointments or car repairs. Get started today by downloading the free Family Search Family Tree app to your Apple or Android device. Visit familysearch.org/tree app to get the Family Tree app for free. Exploring and expanding your family tree has never been more convenient. Visit familysearch.org/tree app to download the Family Search Family Tree mobile app today.
Hi, Genies. It's Scott Fisher, host of Extreme Genes, with an invitation for you to join our brand spanking new Extreme Genes Patrons Club. Now, the Extreme Genes Patrons Club is where, for as little as $1 a month, Genies everywhere can take advantage of Extreme Genes rewards, such as early access to our latest podcasts, members-only bonus podcasts, acknowledgement on extremegenes.com, and special monthly live online question and answer sessions with well-known family history experts. Catch visits with genealogy stars such as David Allen Lambert, photo detective Maureen Taylor, DNA expert C.C. Moore, and many other experts and storytellers. If you find yourself craving more stories, more ideas for digging up your dead, more inspiration, the Extreme Genes Patrons Club is for you. The rewards start at just $1 a month. Find out more now. Just go to extremegenes.com and click on our special Extreme Genes Patrons Club link at the top right, or go to patreon.com/extremegenes.
Extreme Genes is sponsored in part by 23andme.com, a personalized genetic service that helps you understand what your 23 pairs of chromosomes, your DNA, say about you. 23andme.com gives you a snapshot view of your DNA with more than 60 detailed reports on your health, traits, and ancestry, plus tools to explore and compare your DNA with family and friends. 23andme.com is the first and only genetic service available directly to you that includes reports that meet FDA standards. Here's how it works. Order your DNA kit from 23andme.com. Provide your saliva sample from home and mail it back to a CLIA-certified lab. Then you'll be notified when your reports are ready online. You'll also receive ongoing reports as new genetic discoveries are made and as 23andme.com is able to clear new reports through the FDA. See why more than 1 million people are experiencing their genetics with 23andme.com. Order your DNA kit today at 23andme.com.
I just can't believe this guy is calling me the deepest voiced man in all of the world of genealogy. He is A.J. Jacobs. He's my next guest. This is Extreme Genes, America's family history show, and extremegenes.com. Fisher here, the radio root sleuth, and this segment is brought to you by myheritage.com. A.J. is, of course, the best-selling New York Times author, the author of The Year of Living Biblically, which we're going to talk about a little bit here, too. But he's coming out with a new book. It's out on November 7th. It's called It's All Relative, Adventures Up and Down the World's Family Tree. AJ, welcome back to Extreme Genes. How are you, my friend?
I am good. Thank you, Fisher. And I mean that. Thank you, because I honestly could not have written the book without you and Extreme Genes, because you gave me so many ideas for chapters and angles. And as you might know, in the back of the book, there's sort of the best tips I learned about genealogy from my 4 years exploring it. And listening to Extreme Genes is right in there. So,
wow.
Yes.
Wow.
And I do think you have a deep voice, but
well,
compared
thank you.
to me, most people have a deep voice.
Thank you very much, AJ. That's a delight.
You're welcome.
You know, it's quite a journey that you've been on. I mean, as a writer, first of all, I'm the son of a writer. My mother was a writer, and I understand what it is to sit down and try to map something out and try to express some kind of cohesive idea. And family history is a tough thing. It's a big beast. It's kind of like trying to feel what the elephant is in the room in the dark, right?
Right. Well, that's what I loved about it. I love taking on these huge topics. And it's almost like listening to a few episodes of Extreme Genes, because
yes,
we go.
Except you're much funnier than I am.
I don't believe it.
I think so.
But yeah, I try to find the most interesting family stories and fascinating characters, and some of them, as I say, are Extreme Genes alums, including that amazing story of the man who turned out he had 9 siblings, and they all had different fathers. I'm still blown away by it. And you know what? It's a great story, but it's also an inspiring one, because he forgives his mother and sees the good in her, even though she did these things that might not be considered so moral. And the father, too, who has no biological relation to these kids, but he still loved them and treated them as his own. So I love a good story like that.
Yeah, it was a very uplifting story, and it was a thrill to have him on and talk about that as well. Well, let's talk a little about, you used a reference here that I hadn't seen before that I really liked, and that is gray sheep, because most of us think of people as good people and bad people, right? And you kind of came up with the idea of gray sheep, which I think really describes an awful lot of ancestors.
That's true. I find when you're looking at ancestors, you got to look at the bad and the good. And as you know, there are studies saying this is actually good for teaching your kids and your family. You got to show that no one is perfect and no one is purely evil. And that's actually inspiring to kids, because then they can work harder and know that we all have our challenges. But yeah, gray sheep, I'm a big fan of. This is after the book, but I just found one of my third cousins twice removed was involved in the Teapot Dome scandal. So that was nice, and he was he was trying to blackmail. So I did not have any blackmailers in the family until just recently.
If you're not familiar with that, that goes back to the Warren Harding administration in the early 1920s. So you have a lot of people who were involved with the Kennedys and some very big political individuals. Your grandfather, as I recall?
Right. My grandfather, who I have a couple chapters on, was a fascinating man, and he was a lawyer, and he was Martin Luther King Jr.'s lawyer. And the FBI, as you know, was not a fan of MLK at the time. And so I got the Freedom of Information Act through them. I got like a 400-page file on my grandfather. And I learned all about things that I didn't know. And what's striking, though, is how thorough they were. I mean, this was even before Google stalking, but they have where he went to vacation, where his kids' college dorms are. It was really quite astounding. And they even had a write-up of how he met his wife, which is almost like a movie meeting. She was in the hospital in college, and he wanted to visit her, and he climbed up the fire escape and snuck into her room, and her mother was there, and she kicked him out. So the FBI was well aware of that.
Isn't that great to think that you could use the FBI as a primary source for your family history, AJ?
Isn't that amazing? Yeah, I suppose. Thank you, J. Edgar Hoover, for doing some of the work for me.
Well, let's talk about the global family reunion. Now, we're looking at it 2 years in the rearview mirror now. It was in June of 2015. I was thrilled to be there, to be one of your MCs for the event, to be up on stage with you and the girls from Sister Sledge singing We Are Family in the drizzling rain after the big morning downpour. I mean, my goodness, there were an awful lot of things that didn't go quite as planned.
Well, yeah, it was. And just to back up, if you haven't heard of it, the idea was that with genealogy on these amazing revolutions happening, we now can see how we are all related.
Right.
And we've got these mega family trees on the internet with millions of people. You can see, for instance, Barack Obama is my 5th great aunt, husband's brother's wife, 7th great nephew. So very close. So I love this idea. Thanks to DNA testing, also, we have thousands of cousins. So the idea was to throw a family reunion, the biggest ever, and invite all 7 billion of my cousins. And we didn't get quite 100% attendance. We didn't get 7 billion. But we did get 4,000, and there were 40 simultaneous reunions around the world, including Salt Lake City, New Zealand, Mexico, an island off of India. So it was an amazing experience, the strangest event I've ever been involved with, because the collection of people we had, at one stage we had a speaking block of a rabbi, a minister, a Buddhist monk, and an atheist. And they all came up to talk about what family meant to them. And as you say, Sister Sledge was there. We sang We Are Family. But these things, when you are throwing it, it was one of the worst days of my life, because I just spent the whole time stressing out about every detail.
Yep.
You know, some guy had a drone. He was taking photos of the crowd with the drone, and the drone was like 1.5 feet over people's heads. And I'm saying, this guy is going to crash. I am going to be sued, and this is the end of my life. But luckily, no lawsuits yet.
Well, I remember hanging around with you and Julie and the kids after the show over by one of the booths that had been there. And the look on your face was just a complete state of shock and relief and exhilaration and all these things kind of at the same time. It was a great time, though. I mean, I don't have any regrets about it at all, and I hope you don't, because if you add up, not only maybe you didn't get as many people in New York as you had hoped to have that day, you added up around the world. What was your total? It had to be monstrous.
It was over 10,000 people were participating in this global family reunion, and it is still shocking and amazing to me that many people did it, and I loved it. And people, including from you and David Allen Lambert, who was there. I got such lovely feedback, and I am not a hugger myself because I'm a repressed person, but it was nice to see there was a lot of spontaneous hugging between people, and they were like, hey, you're my cousin, you're my 14th cousin, and then they would hug. And I love that we got that message out because, as you know, this is a complicated time in our world where there's a huge amount of division and tribalism and separation.
What are you talking about, AJ? It's just one big kumbaya. Are you kidding me?
Oh, yeah, you're right. I'm seeing it too negatively. Well, that was the idea, yeah. It may not solve world peace, but it will hopefully nudge people and remind them that we do share 99.9% of our genes to extreme genes. And there, one fascinating study that just came out last year said that Harvard did a study on Israelis and Palestinians. And when they explained to them how closely they were related, they treated each other more kindly. They were more open to negotiation.
Yes.
And the other group, when they did not explain, there was much more hostility. So there is some evidence that this mindset can actually do some good.
Oh, well, there's no question about that. And there, of course, we know of the studies from the last few years about the effects on children when they know about the struggles and the trials of their ancestors and how they survived them, overcame them. So when those kids run into their inevitable bumps in the road, they're able to manage them much better. And this is why this whole thing's important. This isn't just a fun little hobby. This is stuff that does change the world. And certainly with what you were doing that day, you're doing, and I think the book too. And it's a great read, by the way, for people who haven't heard of it yet. It's All Relative is the name of it. Adventures Up and Down the World's Family Tree. It's from Simon & Schuster by my guest, A.J. Jacobs, the New York Times bestselling author, the author of The Year of Living Biblically. By the way, we got to talk about that coming up because that's taking a whole new twist. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back and get into some of these other aspects of the book and what's happening with A.J.'s other baby, The Year of Living Biblically. It's all coming up in 5 minutes on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show.
Scientific studies have proven that youth who know even a little bit about their family history perform better academically and have a greater sense of personal confidence and stability. Genealogy is its own incredible superpower that arms our children with super strength. But how do you get your child or grandchild interested in studying their family history? That kind of stuff is just for grandmas, right? Not anymore. ZapTheGrandmaGap.com leaps the generation gap in a single bound. Author Janet Havorka provides you with useful and timely advice on helping the young people in your life become engaged in their own family history. Janet has an entire collection of books to inspire the young and the young at heart in fun, interactive ways. She also offers creative tips and advice on her blog and in her free weekly newsletter. Stop by ZapTheGrandmaGap.com today to sign up for Janet's free email newsletter with 52 weeks of easy tips, free downloads, and order your set of resource books and workbooks. Looking for an easy way to show off your family history and share it with your family? Family Chartmasters offers beautiful custom pedigree art pieces and inexpensive family reunion draft charts in any design or size that fits your needs. With a free consultation at FamilyChartmasters.com, you can get started creating a new family masterpiece. Family Chartmasters has over 11 years of experience in creating and printing family charts. They can print any style of genealogy chart from any genealogy file and can create exactly what you're looking for. You'll work with a specialized and talented consultant whose goal is to make you happy. Decorative charts make fantastic gifts for all occasions. And with Family Chartmasters' option of ordering duplicate charts at half price along with your original purchase at full price, you can afford to give a family heirloom to each member of your family. Contact Family Chartmasters today at FamilyChartmasters.com for your free consultation. Family Chartmasters will give the greatest care to your family history.
And And welcome back to Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show, and ExtremeGenes.com. It is Fisher here, your radio root sleuth. And this segment of Extreme Genes is brought to you by FamilySearch.org. And I've got my good friend A.J. Jacobs on the line from New York City. He is the author of It's All Relative, Adventures Up and Down the World's Family Tree. This is a book that's been, 4 years in the making now, A.J.?
Yeah, that's true. Exactly. It was no overnight. I didn't cram.
No, you did not. You just had to figure out what you were going to write about, and you made it incredible. It's coming out on November 7th, and so it can be ordered in advance, I would assume, through Amazon. And Simon & Schuster have an outlet, too?
Yeah, I think Amazon, Barnes & Noble, anything you want. And pre-orders are much appreciated. Those apparently help a lot.
Yeah, you can get those right now. You can order the book online right now, but it won't be shipped, I don't think, till November 7th. And you're going to be doing some book signings coming up as well around the country. Where are you going to be and when?
I'm going to be in Salt Lake City November 14th, and I'll also be Los Angeles and Washington, D.C., and New York. If you're in New York, I would love to see you. I'll put the dates on my website, so you can check that.
Excellent. That's great stuff. Let's talk a little about the book. Then I want to get into the Year of Living Biblically, which is one of your earlier efforts that is making some real noise in the entertainment world right now. Exclusivity versus inclusivity. This is on page 198 of It's All Relative. And you talk about genealogy has been a tool of the elite back in the day. I used to have a neighbor who actually talked like that. Oh, Scotty, so good to see you. As you know, back east, we call that New England snob, right? It's like Thurston Howell III and his wife, Lovey. And I think that's a fair thing to say. But back in colonial times, right, some of the Americans, they were finding genealogy was distasteful because that kind of reflected back on the old British caste system. But it's really kind of hard to avoid some of those connections, isn't it, as you found out as you were writing the book?
Well, yeah, I think that to me is fascinating, that early on, as you say, when America was founded, genealogy was seen as undemocratic. Why should we be paying attention to these aristocrats and elevating these people just because they descended from fancy folks? We need a clean slate. But now genealogy, I think, has shed some of that snobbery, and you've got people from all different backgrounds looking into where they came from. And I love that. I think the democratization of genealogy is awesome. And even those most exclusive clubs, like you might argue the Daughters of the American Revolution, was sort of founded as this gated community. And, we're the ones, and you owe us thanks. We did it. But even that, as you know, we have a mutual friend who was the first African-American member of the Daughters of the American Revolution, and they are making an effort to expand and get Native Americans, because there were a whole bunch of ethnicities who fought in the Revolution. One Daughter of the American Revolution told me it was the First World War. You had French, German, Native American, Latinos, and so I love that idea of throwing open the gates.
Absolutely true. And you're talking about Karen Batchelor, of course, who joined back in the late 1970s, still very active in everything she does. I think she's making an almost AJ-type effort here to join like 20 lineage societies in a single year.
I love that idea. I can't wait to read about it.
Yeah.
And as you've talked about, the lineage societies are hilarious because you cannot believe how many of them are there.
Yes, and the names are funny.
They're great. Pirates, there's the Royal Bastards. There's the Royal Bastards, offspring of mistresses, and so it is select whatever your ethnic heritage, you will find a group.
Whatever it is that you want. All right, now let's talk about the Year of Living Biblically, and I think people who know you may know you best from that book, which came out what year?
That was about 10 years ago.
10 years
it's been
ago.
A while.
Yeah. And throughout that year, you were trying to live each of the 10 commandments, right down to stoning an adulterer, which you did in the middle of Central Park with your long beard. And I mean, it's a great story. And last we talked, I want to say a year or more ago, about biblically, you were saying, hey, I'm in California because we're doing a pilot film, maybe for a movie about it, but it kind of took another spin. Let's talk about this.
Yes, to my surprise, it is going to be a TV series. It's going to be a sitcom on CBS called Living Biblically, and it airs in January, and it is loosely based on me and my life and my book. There are a few differences, but it's amazing. I just went out there with my wife to see it taped, and it was a surreal experience to see this much more handsome man saying things that I might have said. And I love, and Julie, my wife, is very excited because the actress who plays her, is 2 inches taller. And Julie always felt she wanted to be a little taller.
Well,
So, it's quite a wild thing. And we'll see how it does. You know, it's on a big network, but you never know.
Well, look, 13 weeks on CBS is a mighty fine start no matter what. And I'm sure that that'll also bring a lot more attention to your new book. It's all relative.
Yeah, I hope so. I've written several books and articles, and Hollywood has always flirted with them. But in the end, nothing ever got made. So I was shocked when they said that this was actually getting made. I was like, you're kidding, right? But
that's so exciting.
Yeah.
Well, and even if he is more handsome than you, and I can't even imagine it, AJ. You're a fine-looking man. I guarantee you he is not as funny as you are. You're putting your lines into his mouth, and that's what makes this thing rock.
Well, that is very kind of you. But he's very funny. He's actually, I don't know if you were a fan of Mad Men, but he was on that show. He played Peggy's boyfriend. And in that show, he had a huge beard. So I think they cast him partly because they knew he could grow the biblical beard.
Well, absolutely. And yes, Mad Men is an incredible show. I've got a story about that, but that's for another time, in fact.
Ooh, I want to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. But we've got a little time left. I want to talk about the day that you had your family come home and you had all the ancestors lined up on the wall. I mean, right down to the smallest ancestor. What were you thinking that day? Describe this scene very quickly while we have a little time still.
I took over the living room, and I wanted to show my kids and wife where they came from. So I had their grandmother, great-great-grandfather, a Civil War soldier. But then I went farther back. So I went back to the cavemen, and I went back even farther to the first mammal, who was sort of like this shrew-like, this mouse-like creature. And then I went back farther to this little tiny cell, who is all of our great-great-great-great, say that about 1.5 million times, grandfather or grandmother. His name is Luca, L-U-C-A.
Oh, did you name him, or is that the scientist name for him?
That's the scientist name.
No kidding.
My son is named Lucas, so he was very excited. It was him. Last Universal Common Ancestor, it stands for. And I just love this idea that we all come from the same place. And, you know, I don't believe in the literal version of the Adam and Eve story, but I do believe what scientists call Y chromosome atom and the mitochondrial Eve, so that there really were these two people a couple 100,000 years ago that we're all descended from.
Right.
So we really are all cousins in a very real way.
The book is It's All Relative, Adventures Up and Down the World's Family Tree. It's from Simon & Schuster, written by my good friend A.J. Jacobs, the author of the New York Times bestselling book, The Year of Living Biblically, which is going to be premiering on CBS this January. Thanks so much for coming on. It was great to catch up with you, and best of luck with the book, and I hope to see you on your signing tour.
I'll see you soon.
Well, Genie's, my personal family history researcher who sends me new information day and night, has sent me some incredible new records and newspaper stories lately. Hi, it's Fisher, and the name of that researcher, by the way, is myheritage.com. It's the hardest working service in genealogy, looking for records of your family 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Yes, even while you're sleeping. How does it work? MyHeritage uses hundreds of algorithms to match your ancestors to over 5 billion records from around the world, and with 97% accuracy. That means no more wasting time figuring out whether or not a match really is a match. I hear from listeners all the time who are shocked with how much information is accurately found and then passed along. And now MyHeritage will translate your ancestors' names into English or any other language you like from foreign records. In fact, it works with over 40 languages. No one else does this. Whether you're a beginner or seasoned researcher, you need myheritage.com.
Extreme Genes is sponsored in part by 23andme.com, a personalized genetic service that helps you understand what your 23 pairs of chromosomes, your DNA, say about you. 23andme.com gives you a snapshot view of your DNA with more than 60 detailed reports on your health, traits, and ancestry, plus tools to explore and compare your DNA with family and friends. 23andme.com is the first and only genetic service available directly to you that includes reports that meet FDA standards. Here's how it works. Order your DNA kit from 23andme.com. Provide your saliva sample from home and mail it back to a CLIA-certified lab. Then you'll be notified when your reports are ready online. You'll also receive ongoing reports as new genetic discoveries are made and as 23andme.com is able to clear new reports through the FDA. See why more than 1 million people are experiencing their genetics with 23andme.com. Order your DNA kit today at 23andme.com.
Legacy Tree Genealogist is a proud sponsor of Extreme Genes. Based in Salt Lake City, Utah, near the world's largest family history library, we've been working with genealogists all over the globe since 2004 to track down records, find your ancestors, and the stories that bring your legacy to life. We also analyze DNA test results, help you join lineage societies, and find missing cousins or heirs to property. Legacy Tree is the recommended research partner of MyHeritage.com and is the world's highest client-rated genealogy firm. Call us toll-free at 1-800-818-1476. Call now or register online to get a free estimate. Learn from our free genealogy tips on our blog at legacytree.com/blog. Even experienced researchers can benefit from our proven and experienced staff of specialists who can bring new approaches to old problems. Legacy Tree Genealogists. We do the research. You enjoy the discoveries. legacytree.com.
And welcome back. It's America's Family History Show, Extreme Genes and ExtremeGenes.com. Fisher here, your radio root sleuth. And this segment is brought to you by 23andme.com DNA. Tom Perry is here from tmcplace.com. He's our preservation authority. And Tom, I got to tell you, I just really kind of felt emotional when I saw this email that we got concerning preservation. Hi there, my sister lives in Houston, Texas, and had a box full of older videotapes, mini DVs, that was submerged in floodwater. She's devastated, wants to know what she can do to retrieve the video off the tapes. Can you help her? Wow. You know, that really brings it home, doesn't it?
Oh, it really does. And it's just so sad. And people out there, spread the word. Let people know that this can be done, because I have people all the time have situations not even as bad as this, and they go to the big box retailers and say, hey, I need to get this turned into a DVD, and they go, sorry, nothing we can do about it. And so they go and throw them away, or they hang on to them, but they just, because they can't throw them away, but there is a way that they can be rescued. The first thing you want to do is look in the cases. Some of them will be really damp, some of them won't be damp. So the first thing you need to do is separate those. The ones that are still damp, you want to get distilled water and put them in a bath of that, because that will help you get the dirt and all that kind of stuff off if they're already wet. If they've dried out, don't do that. Let us do that for you. But if they're still wet, you want to get a lot of that kind of distilled water on them, because that's going to clean a lot of the gunk and so
the
out of it.
So the moisture isn't the issue.
Moisture is actually worse than heat. We have ones that went through the California fire where people lost their houses, and they had these things in a strong box. And the cases were totally melded, but yet the tape itself has a higher flash point. So we were able to break open the cassettes and get the tape out and still transfer them.
Wow. So you put it in a different case.
Right, yeah. We call them donor cases. We put them in one of those. But with water causes all kinds of havoc. If there's any dust or particles at all on your tape, which, can be normal, what it does, the water, when it dries, it actually glues the tape together.
Oh.
And so what we have to do is by hand, once we get them semi-dried out the best we can, we have to slowly move the tape, because if you put it in a player or a rewinder, it's going to go so fast, it's just going to tear the tape apart. So we try to go as slow as we can, making the loops as open as possible, then do the same thing backwards. So then when we put it in and play it at normal speed, it's already been kind of loosened. And we use a special VCR for this, that after every tape that we transfer, we have to clean the heads, because it could contaminate the heads with mold, whatever. And so we're constantly doing that. We use this machine only for like tapes that have been in water, ones that have started growing mold, different things like that, so that there's no way they're going to affect another customer's job. But so we have these special VCRs for that. So the biggest thing you need to do is get them to us. If you've gone through the steps and gone through the distilled water, clean them out the best you can, put them in there, slush them around, and then pull them back out, then what you want to do is let them dry on a towel, get as much moisture out. Then when you're ready to send them to us, as we've told you on previous shows, to double box them, go to extremegenes.com and type in shipping, and now we'll tell you again how to do it. And then what you want to do is get some cheesecloth at any fabric store, get some long grain rice, uncooked of course, and not minute rice, it won't work. And you put it in the cheesecloth, then you tie it up in a little ball, and make sure you use string, don't use rubber bands, and put that in the Ziploc bags that the tapes are going to be on. So when it's coming to us, that will kind of start pulling some of the moisture out, so that when we get them, we can see what they need. Some of them are going to have to be rewound. Unfortunately, some of them might be so glued together, we're going to have to cut out sections, but 25% of something is better than nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. Boy, it's just the thought of this thing, though, it's so emotional, and I don't think any of us think about the day that could come where this would happen, what that would mean. I think it would be worse than losing, a car or a home or, the carpet or whatever it is, because these are your memories.
Oh, absolutely. Any of those things you mentioned can be replaced. These things are absolutely irreplaceable. No matter how rich you are, you could never replace these things.
All right. Coming up next, we're going to take another email, hopefully not as tragic as this one, and find out what you've got to say about it. On the way in minutes on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show.
Looking for an easy way to show off your family history and share it with your family? Family Chartmasters offers beautiful custom pedigree art pieces and inexpensive family reunion draft charts in any design or size that fits your needs. With a free consultation at FamilyChartmasters.com, you can get started creating a new family masterpiece. Family Chartmasters has over 11 years of experience in creating and printing family charts. They can print any style of genealogy chart from any genealogy file and can create exactly what you're looking for. You'll work with a specialized and talented consultant whose goal is to make you happy. Decorative charts make fantastic gifts for all occasions. And with Family Chartmasters' option of ordering duplicate charts at half price along with your original purchase at full price, you can afford to give a family heirloom to each member of your family. Contact Family Chartmasters today at FamilyChartmasters.com for your free consultation. Family Chartmasters will give the greatest care to your family history.
When was the last time you heard your grandmother's voice or saw your family enjoying life back in the 1950s or 60s? If the reason is you haven't known what to do with your old recordings, videos, and films, here's your answer. The Multimedia Center in Salt Lake City.
We brought in a video project to the Multimedia Center, and overnight they duplicated it to DVD so we could meet our deadline.
The Multimedia Center, 2870 East, 3300 South, Salt Lake City. Open Monday through Friday, 10 to 6. Call 801-483-1717 or go to transferduplication.com.
Genie's, it's Fisher with exciting news. The Weekly Genie, the official newsletter of Extreme Genes, is here. It's your Monday morning briefing on what's happening in the world of genealogy and family history and on Extreme Genes. Get all the details of jaw-dropping stories of discovery and keep up with the latest techniques in family history research. Get to know more about your favorite Extreme Genes personalities, and it's free. Sign up for the Weekly Genie now at extremegenes.com or the Extreme Genes Facebook page. And when you do, you'll receive David Allen Lambert's top 10 tips for beginning genealogists from the chief genealogist of the New England Historic Genealogical Society. Sign up today for the Weekly Genie. We're back talking preservation on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show, and extremegenes.com. Fisher here, the radio root sleuth. Tom Perry over there. He's our preservation authority from tmcplace.com. And Tom, we got another great question. This is from Patty Vital in Germantown, Maryland. She writes, I'm a big fan of Extreme Genes, on which you mentioned a high-quality scanner that's available from Amazon.com. I like your suggestion to buy it, use it as long as needed, then sell it as used. Can you tell me the brand model of the scanner or provide me a link? I'd been considering renting a scanner, but with a number of relatives who may want to participate in scanning photos, I have no idea how long I would need to rent it for. Thanks, Patty.
You know, Patty, that's a great question. The one that we were talking about, we actually talked about on 2 different episodes. It's called an Epson, J as in John, 221B as in boy, and you can get it on Amazon. In fact, when you're done playing around with it, let me know what you want for it. I might buy another backup, because this is a great scanner. It's for the people that don't have a ton of things you need to scan because it didn't have an auto feed. You have to do it all by hand. But the nice thing about it, it will do photos, it'll do slides, and it'll do negatives. So in one scanner, you have all these things, and it will do up to like 40,000 DPI. It's like crazy, which you'll never need. And don't think, oh, the biggest is the best. Let me do that.
No.
You don't want to waste your time. You know, you don't need to do TIFFs if you're not going to make a billboard or want to make copies of copies of copies. Just do the JPEGs. Go to my Twitter account, and you can see a little chart that shows you, hey, if my original is this big and I want to make prints this big, this is what I need. And go by that chart and then always bump it up one higher. That's what I recommend people do.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
Oh, it is. It's the best way to go. There's no question about it. So if you are looking for a scanner that does everything, this Epson is great. It's kind of expensive, but it's a great way to get started. And like we say,
what
you can go ahead
range
and
are
sell
we
it.
talking here, Tom?
It's about $3,000.
Okay.
It's a pricey one. Amazon probably has it at a discount, but that's what retail is. But it's a great scanner. And like she says, you can keep it for a week or a month or whatever and sell it. And if you get everything done by Christmas, sell it right before Christmas, and you'll probably sell it a lot quicker.
Well, and if you share the price among all your relatives and all your cousins, you could actually own it for a while and then ship it off, like you say, and sell it and get most of your money back.
Oh, really? Even in fact, if you lose half of your money and you paid full retail and you spent $1,500, that's just a fraction of what it would cost if you went to another place and had them do your scanning for you. So it's all about time. If you have the time to do it, this is a great way to go. For those of you that have a lot of photographs that you need scanned and you really don't have a lot of time, we've talked about them before. Go to ezphotoscan.com or go to our webpage and there's a link. And that's when you can rent for a week for like $400.
Yeah.
And it's a super, super fast one, and it also comes with a flatbed. So if you have some of those old pictures from the early 1800s that are like glued into a case that stands up on its own, you're going to have to use a flatbed scanner. But then all your other photos that are about 4x4 to 8x10s, you can just get them and send them through it. And if you're the kind that has a lot of notes written on the back, it has an option where you can scan both sides at the same time. So you send it through once. And what's really cool about this, too, is if you have a photo album that you can't take apart because they're glued in there, you have the ability to scan the whole page and then go to another part of the scanner, and it will go and do its best to separate each of the pictures out. So you have a scan of the entire page, and then you have each one as its individual picture, which is so cool.
And we should mention, by the way, that the LDS, the Mormon Church, has family discovery centers that have a lot of these copying machines right there where you can do some of this for free.
Oh, yeah. Just check with the local centers, find out where their genealogy centers are, and if they have one of those machines, go in there and spend a day, set up a time, and it's totally free, and it is an incredible machine.
All right, Tom. Great to see you. Thanks for coming by. We'll see you next week.
My pleasure.
Hey, that's our show for this week. Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks once again to A.J. Jacobs, the New York Times best-selling author, for coming on and talking about his new book, It's All Relative. Can't believe he plugged Extreme Genes in there twice. You got to pick that up. Hey, don't forget to sign up for our Patrons Club. You can go to patreon.com/extremegenes or go to extremegenes.com. Click on Patrons Club. Love to have you there. Talk to you again next week. Thanks for joining us. And remember, as far as everyone knows, we're a nice, normal family.